This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us as Deb talks with her guests, experts in their fields, as they share real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're doing one of those things that I absolutely love, and that's having a guest on for a repeat performance. And I love it because it means my guests have so much knowledge to share that we just can't get it out in an hour. You know, I tell people I always set a timer because, not that I'm going to cut them off or anything like that, but we could talk forever. And my guest today, Tom Augenthaler, really is somebody that I could talk to for a long time because it is such a fascinating subject to me. So again, Tom, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Deb. I'm really pleased to be here. This is great.
Like I said, it's like we're chatting with friends, got my coffee, all that good stuff. But
Me too.
I know. As we're doing this, it actually is morning, and so we need our coffee, all that good stuff. But what we talked about last time, and your program originally aired on August 19th or August of 2019.
Right.
And it was about influencer marketing. And I think this is such a fascinating subject. Which is, again, why I wanted to have you on again. But wait, let me tell people a little bit about you. And then we'll jump back into it. See, I'm just so excited to talk about this. So Tom Augenthaler is the founder of 551 Media, LLC, an influencer marketing consultancy that helps clients around the world. He founded The Influence Marketer to share his ideas and knowledge with others looking to learn about this dynamic marketing strategy. Tom has been leveraging the power of influencer marketing since 2007 and a consultant helping corporate clients since 2009. He is an international speaker and is recognized as one of the top 50 experts in the field by Talking Influence. He writes for a number of outlets, including Social Media Examiner, Social Media Today, and the Beauty Influencers. Okay, now we've got that out of the way, we can jump back in. So, we do want to encourage people to go back and listen to the first interview because we're going to talk about something that's just a little bit different. But what is influencer marketing? Why is that so important now?
Well, influencer marketing is really just about partnering with people who have regular people who've developed social followings online.
Okay.
And working with them to get your brand message out or your product message or service, whatever it is that you're doing, and getting more directly, more efficiently in front of your target market, that ideal audience, that ideal customer that you really want to reach. So instead of blasting it out through advertising, like on a billboard, a TV ad, or something like that, you can find your audience in a much more efficient and effective manner. And very often they're following these people. So just work with that person.
Right. And
now you're in front of that audience you want to reach.
Right. And I want to be clear, we're not talking about a celebrity spokesperson.
No.
That they have their place. I think Michael Jordan was probably one of the very first true celebrity spokespeople in this day and age. But we're not talking about Kim Kardashian, Michael Jordan, any of those big names, because how they're presenting things is very different. They might be talking about their personal experiences with a product, with a service, but that's really not what we're talking about. You mentioned it. We're talking about everyday people that I'm actually more likely to believe.
Exactly. Because they're more relatable.
Right. And it was funny. I was talking with another guest the other day about someone who is marketing a product to mothers. And so what she really did was reach out to mommy bloggers. Right. And, I'm not a mommy, and so I don't follow that world at all. But some of those mommy bloggers have millions of followers. And so they are true influencers.
Yeah, that's correct. They've built these audiences, whether they're through blogging or on their Instagram profile, could be YouTube. It's probably maybe even a mix of those things.
Right.
and they've built an audience, a following over
Mhm.
time. And now you can work with people like that
Mhm.
to get out the message that you want to
Mhm.
deliver to your customers or to your ideal customers,
Mhm.
those people that you really want to make an impact on.
Right.
And it's done in a way that's more personal.
Mhm.
So that influencer is going to take your content and they're going to say, oh, this is really cool. Or if it's a
Right.
product they're reviewing or something, they're going to try it out. They're going to say what they like about it, what they don't
Mhm.
like about it. And they're going to convey that to their audience. And that's just so much more human
Mhm.
than regular advertising is.
Right.
So it's like you said, it's with people that are relatable.
Mhm.
So if you're a mom, obviously, if you're following mommy bloggers, you're probably a mom or something like that
Right. Mhm.
yourself, or
Mhm.
going to become one, or looking to become one, or in the
Mhm.
process. Maybe you're pregnant or something,
Mhm.
and you want to know what's going on and how these other moms deal with stuff.
Mhm.
Now you can figure that out today by going on to YouTube, Instagram, whatever.
Mhm.
And it's not just through your close network of friends anymore. Now you
Mhm.
can branch out and you can see, well, maybe my child has issues that my friends' children
Mhm.
don't. So who do I talk to?
Right.
Well, now you can relate to people that
Mhm.
have similar issues and then talk about things like
Mhm.
that. So it's really pretty powerful.
Right. And from a marketing perspective, companies need to at least be aware of those influencers. They might not be working with them, they might not be providing them anything, but they need to know what they're saying, especially if they might say
Exactly.
something bad about your company. And so it's just like, we used to research, with the big reporters, if
Hmm.
say they were a reporter in the tech industry, what were they writing about? What were they doing? We might not actually contact them, but we knew what they were doing. And so we want to encourage companies, if you are in an area where there's some pretty heavy hitting influencers, at least be aware of what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you said, that's a great analogy, reporters.
Hmm.
So an influencer could buy your product
Hmm.
and just start using it, and maybe
Right.
they start talking about a
Hmm.
little bit on their channel.
Hmm.
You need to be aware of that,
Hmm.
right? So that's what in my business we call that social listening.
Hmm.
So we'd be watching and
Hmm.
listening and monitoring who's talking about
Hmm.
our brand or our
hmm
product or my clients or whatever.
hmm
So, because maybe that's an opportunity to insert yourself into the
Right. Hmm.
conversation a little bit, right?
hmm
Maybe that's an entree, if you want to
hmm
call it that. If they're saying something negative, you certainly want to step in and
Oh,
say, hey,
yeah.
wait a
Hmm.
minute,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
might be using the product not the way it was
hmm
designed to be
hmm
used. If you're using, for instance, let's relate it to tech. If you're using
hmm
a laptop that's meant for a business person, a
hmm
road warrior, obviously that's not going to be a good laptop for a gamer.
Right. It's not going to have the
Right?
oomph.
It's not going to have the oomph. It's not going
Hmm.
to process the video
hmm
fast enough or the imagery. So, it would be using the wrong
hmm
tool for a certain activity.
Right.
So you'd want to step in
Hmm.
and say, hey, wait a minute,
hmm
that's not what our product is
hmm
for. However, we do have a line
hmm
of
Right.
products like that,
Be
maybe,
happy to
and
provide one to
right.
you. Hmm. hmm
Let's work out a deal. I'll
hmm
send one over to you and we'll do a briefing on it and you can try it out.
Right. Right.
So it's an opportunity then.
Well, and if and when they say something good, especially if it was unsolicited,
Exactly.
you definitely want to reach out and say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. We're so happy that you liked, our product." And maybe you don't carry it any further than that, but everybody always likes to be thanked and acknowledged.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And a lot of this is happening. You don't even notice it
Hmm.
perhaps.
Right.
A lot of the followers of these different influencers will contact them,
Hmm.
what's known as the dark social,
Hmm.
meaning they'll send them a text or
Right.
they'll send them through Messenger or
Hmm.
something, and
hmm
it's not public, so it's
hmm
private. But a lot of these communications are going on back channel, and
hmm
you might not know about it just by looking at comments
hmm
on their
Right.
Instagram feed or something.
Hmm.
There are back channel conversations going
hmm
on all the time. So you'd want to be involved in that if it's
hmm
about you and your
Right.
products, right?
hmm Right. And we we see examples of influencer marketing all the time. And it was funny because I was talking with somebody about this and they were like, yeah, and I
Yeah.
said, so if you're on Facebook and someone you've never met, you're just
Mhm.
a Facebook friend, maybe they're a friend of a friend of a friend of, whoever, and they say, oh, I went and saw movie X and I didn't like it. Are
Mhm.
you going to go to that movie? And they went, oh, hmm. I don't
Probably
know.
not.
Yeah, and simply because of that, and that was influencer marketing right there at one of its simplest forms. And it used to be the caveman said, "Oh, don't do,"
Yeah, yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah.
Well, we're all influenced by what other people
Hmm.
say and think. And I don't, I mean, I am, I mean, we all are. And
Hmm.
I think we sometimes even check ourselves
Hmm.
to say, well, wait a minute, do I really, do I not want to read that
Hmm.
book because Jane, my friend,
Hmm.
said that it was terrible?
Right.
You know, that's why when you go onto Amazon, there's all these reviews,
Hmm. Right.
right? And whenever I'm looking at a book to purchase on Amazon, for instance, I will look at some of the negative reviews to see what those
Right.
people are complaining about.
Hmm.
Are they complaining about the content, that it
Hmm.
wasn't very good, that it
Hmm.
wasn't
Hmm.
insightful? That's what I really want to
Hmm.
know.
Right.
If it's just that the book didn't get delivered on
Hmm.
time, or, something like
Yeah.
that, well,
Well.
that doesn't
Hmm.
really help me,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I want to know that. I want to know the
Hmm.
balance. And I think a lot of people are that way,
Hmm. Right.
you know?
Well, and I think we recognize that people are asking their friends to go give them good reviews.
Ex-
And I love it when I read the review where it's very clear that they really didn't read it, use it, whatever, because it's
yeah,
so generic. This is a great product. I would buy it again and recommend it to my friends. Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you're right. That
Mhm.
happens.
Mhm.
But if you and I were just sitting down, over a cup of coffee as a
Mhm.
couple of friends or something, and you were telling me about a book, you would say to me, "Well, I didn't read it yet,
Right. Yeah.
but it didn't really
Mhm.
look that good when I looked in the bookstore,
Mhm.
But you would say that to me,
Mhm.
and you'd be, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I hear
Mhm.
you, maybe we'll check it out,
Right.
later on
Yeah.
or something. But
Mhm.
online, it's like, it's a
Mhm.
different situation. But we're pretty intuitive as creatures, we
Mhm.
humans, so we can kind of suss that out, if you want
Mhm.
to say that.
Right.
Yeah, we can kind of detect whether something's a real review or
Mhm.
not.
Mhm.
So, trying to pull the wool over people's eyes
Right.
is something I do not recommend.
No, no. And same thing with influencers. We
Right.
we don't want them saying something about our product or our service if they've never experienced it.
Exactly.
And that's where it gets tricky for a company to try and figure out how to do this and why so many don't even do it. Or they go, the opposite route. I mentioned the celebrity spokespeople. They think, ooh, wouldn't it be great if the quarterback, if the movie star, if the whoever talked about my product? Sure. But again, it's not as believable or even believable at all when I know somebody's been paid, and now
Yeah.
we understand influencers, they still might have received the product for free. There are various ways where, they're being compensated in some
Compensated.
way for
Right.
their time, but it is very different than, if some big name movie star talks about, I'm loving the new Shaquille O'Neal commercials. He's got like 5 different things that he's out there pitching for. And I'm thinking, does he use any of those? But the one that I pay attention to is, I believe it's Papa Murphy, the pizza place, because
Mm-hmm.
it says in there that he is now an investor and he sits on the board. And so to me, that put him at a different level than just I'm
Right.
the paid celebrity spokesperson.
Yeah. Now he's invested in it.
Hmm. Yep.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more than just a
Hmm.
transactional thing,
Right.
an exchange of money to say
Hmm.
some nice things about a product or
Hmm.
brand. Yeah. Now he's invested in it. He must believe in the
Hmm.
company.
Right.
Right. He must believe in their product and their service. So
Hmm.
you're right. Yeah. That does change the dynamic a
Hmm.
bit. And
Right.
I think people recognize that and
Hmm.
they're aware of that. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. And clearly influencers are very, very important. And, what I wanted to have you on today to talk about is, how do we or our clients or our CEO that we work with or, whoever that is, how do they become an influencer?
Hmm.
And again, maybe it's that, you've got 20 friends on Facebook, or maybe you are, an industry leader and you really want to become that influencer. So first, why would I, why would we want to become an influencer?
Okay. Well, that's a great question because it starts with why.
Hmm.
Why do you want to do that?
Right.
Right. And everybody has a different flavor of why
Hmm.
for them. Maybe it's to expand their social footprint a bit so they can be more
Hmm.
influential in their business.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a young person who says, you know what, I really love these, fashion and stuff, and I have a sense of fashion. My friends are always saying I do, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that to the online world and build a following for myself there. It could be anything, but it could be job security. One thing that a lot of middle-aged people don't think about today is that they're expendable.
Right.
Because the higher up you go in the salary level and then the benefits level, the more likely you are to get cut because of, workforce reduction, as they call it. They have these different terms they want to call it, but they will get rid of those people and bring in younger people, and you can hire 2 people for the price of 1. Right. So what can you do to help your job security? Well, one of the things I'd say is, well, get out there and start talking about your expertise. Talk about what it is that you do well, whether it's insurance, it could be any industry. It doesn't really matter. I've helped people in the oil and gas industry, the insurance industry, marketing. It doesn't really matter. But get out there and start sharing your expertise and your thought leadership a little bit. That can help you. That can help you with your job security. Your company might start to notice that and say, hey, you know what, Deb, you're really doing a good job there, like interfacing with some of our customers. That's great. Now we have a better relationship with some of them. It's helping the sales process. So things like that. I know a guy at HP who was a product manager, and he had to deal with his marketing job and all that, but he got on social media and started talking about the products within that portfolio. And now the company realized how much more worth he had to them in terms of that social media presence. And now his whole job is that he's an evangelist for that product group within the company. And he's so enmeshed now within with the influencer community that he's just regarded as one of them, whether he's with the company or not. He's not independent. I mean, they know that, but they will even say, like, if they have an event around that particular, topic or something, and he's not there, they'll even call it out and say, well, Joe wasn't here, so it's really not the same without him. So that can happen. If there's other examples of young people today on TikTok, platforms like TikTok. Now, I just saw an interview with an influencer the other day on LinkedIn, and the person was asking her on a podcast about, well, how she built her influence there. She's got 1 million followers. It's all just little quirky videos. And she's like, well, I just like doing videos, and it's, here I am, doing quirky, fun stuff. And she's got 1 million followers now. Now brands are contacting her saying, hey, you reach the people that we want to impact, that we want to reach.
Can you wear our makeup, our clothes?
Can we do some stuff together? Right. So now she's doing some partnerships with brands. So it can be all different. It boils down to your why, though, Deb. Like you said, that's really insightful, because if you don't have your why locked down, you're not going to have the passion to carry it through the hard times. Meaning, when you're starting out and only 20 people are following you, right? Everybody starts at that point. Everybody starts with you probably started when you were a podcaster. You just started with, maybe just a dozen people.
My mother listened to my program.
Right. Your mom and your friends were listening to you. Now you've got hundreds of people following you, right? So it starts small. Everybody starts small, but you've got to start that way, and you just got to keep going. The one factor, no matter what you're doing, whether you're podcasting or you're doing videos or you're Instagramming or whatever it is, TikTok, whatever it is, consistency. You got to keep showing up, right? I mean, my platform for what I do is LinkedIn. That's where I see the most return on investment for me, and the way and the kind of value I can give to my audience is on LinkedIn, and then I'll promote a bit on Twitter. So I'm present on both, right? And I might meet people on Twitter and then bring them over to LinkedIn to see some of my content, and vice versa. But that's where my audience lies. And I show up every week. I've started a little video, and every week on Wednesdays, I do a video about influencer marketing. And
you
now
tag people.
I tag people. I use hashtags, right? Those are tactics, though. Those are tactics. We're still talking about your
The
why, your
why. Yes.
strategy, right?
Hmm.
So have that why nailed down. I mean, and the way to do that is to really do some reflection,
Hmm.
self-reflection.
Right.
Yeah, we all want to be known. We
Hmm.
all want to get attention and things
Hmm.
like that. But that's very ephemeral,
Hmm.
and that doesn't sustain you
Right.
through the periods where, gee, why am I doing
Hmm.
this, or da, da, da. And a lot of, like, get back to the mommy bloggers like you were talking about earlier. That's a great niche,
Hmm.
because a lot of those moms started blogging because they noticed things about raising their kids they
Hmm.
couldn't get answers elsewhere.
Right.
So they started
Hmm.
figuring out the answers, and then they just started showing people what
Hmm.
they were doing.
Hmm. Right.
And it's like,
And
well, why not
simple
learn from
things.
another
Hmm.
mom,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Simple things.
Hmm.
How to put your baby down at night. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody's, when you get a baby out of the hospital, baby, taking
Right.
your baby
You're
home
like,
from the
what the
hospital.
heck am I doing with this thing?
Yeah, the nurse is like, all right, just do this, that, and the other thing. You're like,
Hmm.
all right, yeah, but then try to do it, and the baby's
Hmm.
crying, and the two of
Yeah.
you are
And you
like, oh my
can't
gosh,
remember. And yeah. Hmm.
it's 2 a.m, and
Hmm.
you gotta get up at 6, and oh my gosh, so you got to work out a system, a
Hmm.
method. And it's really easier. It's a lot easier to figure out to use a method somebody else uses
Hmm.
that's worked for them.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
you know, and a lot of it starts with that. A lot of it
Hmm.
starts with, I want to help other people.
Hmm.
And that's really, to me, a sustainable why.
Right. Yeah.
You want to help
Because
other people.
that's a good why. It's not, I want to do this because I can make money.
Right.
Now that could be an offshoot. I mean, let's be honest. That is a big part of why, some people do these. They get money, they get the free products, they get whatever, but that shouldn't be the initial thing. I really do like that you say it. It's because we want to help people. We've got
Yeah,
this knowledge, we've got this skill, we want to share it.
exactly. So, an example that got brought up to me by a friend and a colleague of mine recently was remember Mr. Rogers, Mr.
Mhm.
Rogers' Neighborhood,
Mhm.
right? Fred Rogers was just a phenomenal human being.
Mhm.
A very humble man, very
Right.
simple,
Mhm.
didn't really care about all the celebrity. He wanted to
Mhm.
help kids.
Mhm.
And he developed a program on TV where he could just sort of show kids,
Mhm.
all right, well, here's how you structure your day, and
Right.
here's how
Mhm.
learning can be
Mhm.
fun. And hard topics exist in life. Like
Mhm.
Fred Rogers could explain death to like a 7-year-old.
Right.
I mean, who, I mean, I'm a parent and I still have trouble talking
Mhm.
about it, even with adults, no
Mhm.
less my kid.
Right.
And, but he had that gift,
Mhm.
and he just wanted to share the gift.
Mhm.
And he ended up making a lot of money, but money was never the motivator.
Right.
The money was
Mhm.
just, like you said, an offshoot,
Mhm.
a byproduct
Mhm.
of his why,
Right.
of his wanting to
Mhm.
help kids. And he thought, oh, TV at the time was the medium, right? I
Mhm.
mean, Fred wasn't around when social media was here.
Right.
I'm sure
And
he
he
would have
went
all
on
these
his little
channels.
local television station.
Right. And then it
Mhm.
went national, right?
Mhm.
PBS picked it up, and
Mhm.
then it got broadcast all over the
Mhm.
country. And reruns, I think, are still on
Mhm.
today, right?
Right.
I mean,
Mhm.
some of it's still on. So um, that is a great example of figuring out what your why is all about.
Mhm.
You want to help people. Who are the people you want to help?
Mhm.
And then how are you going to do that? Now,
Mhm.
today we're blessed because maybe it's Twitter is the
Mhm.
platform you like best. Maybe it's LinkedIn. Maybe
Mhm.
it's Instagram. Those are just platforms.
Mhm.
Think about where your audience is at,
Mhm.
and then go to them,
Right.
and then start, and then
Mhm.
you could start slow. Don't expect everything to happen
Mhm.
overnight. Yes, there are cases of overnight success, and the media loves to tell you about
Mhm.
overnight success. Like your point about Michael Jordan
Mhm.
before. Michael Jordan was one of those phenomenal basketball
Mhm.
players of all time.
Mhm.
But what they don't show you is all the late nights
Right.
that as a kid or a
Mhm.
teenager that he went out and then
Mhm.
just worked on his
Mhm.
game by just shooting
Mhm.
baskets alone in the dark,
Mhm.
right? Or
Yep.
dribbling,
Mhm.
in the house, maybe when he was, taking a break from homework
Mhm.
or something, he was always working it,
Mhm.
it's like a great musician is somebody who, when they won't sit around and be bored and just watch TV. They'll pick up the guitar and then work on
Mhm.
chords or something, or
Right.
notes, or working on the guitar. Jimi
Mhm.
Hendrix.
Mhm.
What they don't tell you is all the years that Jimi Hendrix
Mhm.
worked as a backup player in all these bands, and he was just a guy they paid $50 a night to like play
Mhm.
some guitar in the background. I mean, before he was able to go out on his own, but he did the groundwork,
Mhm.
right? He did, he wore the dumb little uniforms, the tie and the jacket that the
Right.
guy in the the band
Mhm.
leader told him to
Mhm.
wear.
He did the
He
bar
did it all.
mitzvahs, yeah, whatever.
He did bar mitzvahs. He did birthday parties.
Mhm.
He played guitar probably in a coffee house with
Mhm.
5 people watching, right? That's what they don't tell you. All you see is like, well, there he is on stage at Woodstock with thousands of
Right.
people playing,
Mhm.
admiring him. Well, it doesn't
Mhm.
happen overnight,
Mhm.
and building influence doesn't happen overnight
Right.
either. So
Well,
think of it that way. It's a process.
and I think people want to know a bit about that, kind of what qualifies you to be an influencer. And, and so that's where people, and you might not even say it, it might just be listed in a bio somewhere, whatever,
Mhm.
about the degrees you've had, the years of experience, all of those various things. And that's for anything. I mean, I'm not going to pay attention to a mommy blogger if she's not a mommy. You know?
Yeah, true.
Now,
Right.
it doesn't have to be years of experience there, because she might be pitching, oh my gosh, I am a brand new mom. I was an only child. I have no idea what I'm doing. And that might be how she's positioning herself. Or it could be, I'm now a grandmother to 8, and you'll hear all these various things. But we want to know what qualifies the person to be an influencer.
Okay, so think about that's a great thing, because a great question, because we tend to look at influencers as remarkable people,
Right.
and they're
They
really not.
overcame.
Yes, I overcame this
Mhm.
and I overcame that. Well, we're all overcoming something every
Right.
day.
Uh-huh.
We're
We
overcoming
got
our own,
up.
and right, we got up. It's like Woody Allen said, hey, 80% of life is showing up.
Mhm.
Well, you got to show up,
Mhm.
right? I mean,
Right.
we got you've got your podcast.
Mhm.
Well, it's not going to run unless Deb is in front of the
Right.
microphone and conducting an interview or
Uh-huh.
whatever it is that's going on
Mhm.
in the background. So you got to show up, and you got to
Mhm.
be there. You got to be consistent.
Mhm.
You got to be dedicated. So that's
Right.
why the why is so important, because
Mhm.
that's linked to your dedication.
Mhm.
uh, what qualifies you? Well, why would you be disqualified today?
Mhm.
I mean, a mom, these moms, most people have never heard of them
Right.
unless you're a mom and
Mhm.
you're actively looking for
Mhm.
answers to questions.
Right.
You find them, and now they seem like maybe a little larger than life, but
Mhm.
they're really just moms like
Right.
every other mom,
Mhm.
Um, so everybody has gifts
Mhm.
that they're given.
Mhm.
And I believe that in your life, these gifts are called gifts because you have to unwrap them.
Mhm.
As you get older, as you figure out, through school and life experience, you start figuring out, well, I'm good at this.
Mhm.
People tell me I'm good at this.
Right.
I'm good at this.
Mhm.
Why am I good at
They
this? Well,
ask me about it. Mhm.
yeah, they ask me about
Mhm.
this. Well, there you go. Maybe
Mhm.
that's something right there.
Mhm.
Every single person out there has these gifts,
Mhm.
and every person's gifts are a little different.
Mhm.
So figure out what your gifts are, unwrap them,
Mhm.
and then develop them into skills, right?
Right.
And the way you develop into skills is just through doing it over and over again,
Mhm.
right? Most of us just do it sort of that way. You figure
Mhm.
out, oh, I'm good at this, and I'll just do it again, and then I'll
Mhm.
do it again, and I'll do
Yeah,
it
I
again,
had
and it becomes,
success. I liked it.
yeah. And now it's become your
Mhm.
method. Now, if you
Mhm.
can bottle that up and then start talking about it,
Mhm.
then you're gonna help other people figure out their own gifts,
Mhm.
right? So that's the way I sort of look at it. You've got gifts, turn them into skills,
Mhm.
right? Every single person out there has these gifts.
Right.
You just have to figure out which ones of yours are the
Mhm.
ones that you would like to give to
Mhm.
other people,
Right.
right? In my case, I talk about influencer marketing. I talk about influencers. I talk about how to build
Mhm.
influence. I talk about, the strategies and tactics involved, how to work with a brand. How
Mhm.
should a brand work with an influencer? How should a brand set up an influencer marketing program? These are things
Mhm.
that I talk about because I've lived it and done it.
Mhm. Right.
Uh, so it's kind of easy to do that
Mhm.
because I already know it. Now, if you've gone even through high school or middle school, for gosh sakes, you've got some life experience you
Mhm.
could share. What's it like to be a student in middle school today?
Mhm.
I don't know. I remember what it was like when I was in middle school, but it's probably changed a lot today.
Right. Mhm.
So everybody's got something within them.
Mhm.
Examine what you have, and then think about ways in which you'd like to talk about that. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's through video. Maybe you're a good writer, right?
Right.
Blog then.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's Instagram. You're good with pictures
Mm-hmm.
and you're good with little captions, right? Well, then you can also develop the skill. If you're like, say to yourself, well, I'm not a good writer, Tom. Well, you know what? Here's a tip for you. Everybody can learn writing because
Mm-hmm.
it's just a skill. That's
Right.
all it is. It's not like, for instance, some author like Edgar Allan Poe, the poet or something, sat down and dashed off poems and they were just wonderful and
Yeah, they were
brilliant.
perfect and publishable right away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He worked at it like Jimi Hendrix worked a
Mm-hmm.
guitar, like, all these other people work at what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan with basketball, all these things, everybody works at it. So, and you can work at it too. Writing is a learned skill.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people I always direct people to is Ann Handley. She just came out with a book about how to write
Mm-hmm.
for Twitter, how to write for all these social media platforms. She gets great tips.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just take her book and then
Mm-hmm.
just start applying it, just work it
Right.
from there. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these skills are learnable.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that difficult. You just have to apply a little dedication to
Mm-hmm.
learning them. And then it becomes second nature,
Right.
using hashtags and tagging
Mm-hmm.
people in your
Mm-hmm.
posts. And,
Well, and I think part of it is people don't expect it to be perfect, polished, whatever. That they look at a video and, maybe the quality is a little bit off. The lighting is a little bit off. We've got shadows, all these weird things. But that to me makes us more human and more relatable. If it starts looking like a production,
yeah,
or that you had someone else write it for you, or whatever it is, then to me, and this is just purely my personal thing, it goes back down in the believability. Then it becomes
yeah,
more a product as opposed to somebody's personal feelings.
right, exactly. And that in my business, we call that authenticity.
Hmm.
Right? So we have all these terms, for
Right.
things now.
Hmm.
But
We need a
that's known as
glossary floating along
right,
here.
right. Authenticity. That falls into the authenticity
Hmm.
category, right? Well, but that's true. But that's part of what attracts us to
Hmm.
people, right? I don't want to deal with a celebrity necessarily. I
Hmm.
get enough celebrity every day through the movies and
Right.
TV and all that stuff. All those people are all polished.
Hmm.
They're all made to look good. They've
Hmm.
got designer brands dressing them. They've got all this stuff. They got Nike putting their shoes on their feet. They got all this stuff.
Hmm.
You and I don't have that.
Right.
And most regular influencers, if you want to
Hmm.
call us that, if we lump us all together, just regular, ordinary
Hmm.
people, we don't have that.
Hmm.
But you know what? That's what separates us from them.
Right.
And that's what makes us a little bit more
Hmm.
believable, authentic,
Hmm.
genuine.
Hmm.
You can always up the lighting game a little bit later on.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can maybe get a
And
little
we should be
stand or
making
something.
improvements,
Yeah,
like you
little
said, yeah.
improvements.
Hmm.
But it doesn't have to look like a TV commercial. And I
Right.
don't think people want it to.
Hmm.
They want to know that, hey, this person is helping me with something
Hmm.
and the content is good
Right.
and I get something out of it. It
Hmm.
helps me,
Hmm.
right? Manage my day a little bit or helps with an issue or
Hmm.
something like that. Think of it in those terms.
Hmm.
Think about the quality of your content before all that production stuff.
Right. And speaking of terms, here's another one. Expert. Is there a
Expert.
difference between expert and influencer? Same thing? Because we hear that expert, I'm an expert in, he's an expert in. We don't, to me, that is a different term than an influencer. But what do you think?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Expert tends to, it's a loaded word.
Hmm.
So it's got a lot of
We
back
almost do
meaning.
the expert.
Yes, yeah. So you think,
Hmm.
we tend to think of an expert as someone who knows everything about that
Hmm.
topic. And
Right.
honestly, nobody knows
No.
everything about any topic.
Hmm.
Yes, they might be very proficient in it.
Hmm.
That's fine.
Stephen
Uh,
Hawking continued to learn. I mean,
exactly. If a guy
Mhm.
like that is still
Mhm.
learning from his
Mhm.
peers and exchanging
Mhm.
ideas and scrapping some and going with others, I
Mhm.
mean, you got to think, well, okay, he's that's partially what makes an expert,
Mhm.
right? That whole
Right.
process. So it's
Mhm.
ongoing. It never stops.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the term expert, for my purposes in a marketing
Mhm.
perspective, I apply that to the business influencers.
Mhm.
Because if you're going to talk about topics like enterprise storage,
Mm-hmm.
servers, uh, insurance
Mm-hmm.
contracts, legal issues, well, then the influencer's going to be more of an expert in that field.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they're going to know what they're talking about. They've implemented those strategies before. They've worked with clients. They work
Mm-hmm.
in-house with some company that does that. So they are more experts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a business to business company and you're looking to work with influencers, you certainly want to work with people that know what they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. They have to live and breathe this stuff.
Right.
So they are experts. In terms of consumer things like fashion and beauty and everything else, well, yes, there are experts in all of that stuff. They're
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. But I think that most of the regular, ordinary influencers out there are just people that are using these things on a daily basis, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just sort of exchanging with you. They probably become experts at social media
Right.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the fashion, the beauty, and everything
Mm-hmm.
else, I think they're just people like you and me. They're
Mm-hmm.
experimenting and they're learning along the way, and they're showing you that.
Mm-hmm.
They're documenting what they do. That's part of the process. It's just
Mm-hmm.
don't think about if you're producing content, don't think about content that has to be like, oh gosh, it has to be like out of this world. Just document what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Document your thinking.
Right.
Document, if you're putting together a podcast, for instance, maybe you want to document the process of figuring out how to do a successful podcast
Mm-hmm.
and then show people how you do it along
Mm-hmm.
the way. It'll help you in a couple of ways. One, it helps you with the kind of content you're
Mm-hmm.
producing because people will be interested in it. And then secondly, it will help you because it helps you hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Because now if you're talking about it to other people, they're going to be looking to you to see, okay, well, how is that coming along?
Right.
What's working?
Mm-hmm.
What's not working? The trials and errors.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where the juice is at.
Mm-hmm.
It's the trials and errors,
Right.
right? For instance, like a guy like Michael Jordan, if some interviewer is asking him about what it was like as a kid growing up and becoming a great basketball player, that to me is a lot more interesting
Mm-hmm.
than hearing about the victories with the
Right.
Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting too,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to know what's
Mm-hmm.
the backstory here.
Right.
How did you get here, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
And but documenting that will provide you your
Mm-hmm.
content, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll make you authentic because it is authentic. It's
Mm-hmm.
genuine, right? And you're helping people
Mm-hmm.
because you're showing them about how you're overcoming these obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
And really a lot of life is overcoming obstacles.
Right. And to me, an influencer, it's that personal level, and sometimes the expert is just presenting facts. Now
True.
that's not to say somebody can't obviously be both. And maybe that's the thing is we have experts who are influencers and influencers who are experts, but I do think that there's two separate things.
Yeah, there are. Again, like an expert in the fashion industry probably works in the fashion
Right.
industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, they're working for some
Mm-hmm.
brand or they're a consultant or
Mm-hmm.
something like
But
that.
an influencer is
But
just
an
somebody who
influencer,
buys it. Mm-hmm.
an influencer is probably somebody who's like saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I found this great outfit. I
Mm-hmm.
cobbled together these things to create this outfit. I got
Mm-hmm.
compliments on it. I want to show it to you. You can do it
Mm-hmm.
too. It's not that expensive,
Mm-hmm.
or things like that." So you're right. It's different things. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you want to learn about the beauty industry,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to follow different people than you would if you want to learn just about applying beauty products for your own self,
Right.
right?
So now, does somebody make a conscious decision and say, I'm going to be an influencer? Or does it just kind of come and it's a very grassroots type of thing, and then all of a sudden you kind of realize, oh, hey, people are paying attention to me?
Well, the grassroots way is the way it's usually happened throughout
Right.
my career in influencer
Mm-hmm.
marketing, which spans
Mm-hmm.
about over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way most people did it.
Mm-hmm.
Today, however, there are younger people that are saying, I want to be an influencer. And I just read about there's like I think in Italy, there's some school of influence now. They're like trying to
Seems
teach
like a
people
good place for it to be.
for fashion and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that would make a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sense. So there are now programs
Mm-hmm.
popping up a little bit to help people become
Mm-hmm.
influencers, but at the end of the day, it still boils down to the same thing that you
Mm-hmm.
and I talked about. you can go take all these classes and everything all you want. And really what they're going to teach you is just how to get yourself out there on social media channels and everything else. Most young people know how to do all that.
Right.
So that's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's how to convey the
Mm-hmm.
information, and really the way to convey it is just be you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about being like somebody else.
Right.
You know, the for instance, the best actors in the world, don't try to be like if you're going to be an actor and
Mm-hmm.
if I was going to be an actor, you know, I'd want to aspire to be like somebody like Al Pacino or
Mm-hmm.
Robert De Niro, but I can't be them,
Right.
and imitating them is not going to get me
Mm-hmm.
there. So I have to figure out how to be a great actor on
Mm-hmm.
my own
Right.
right. That's what those
Mm-hmm.
people did,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ellen Burstyn, right? She's one of my favorite actresses. I mean, she's, you know, she's somebody who, again, she looks within herself
Mm-hmm.
to be able to play those roles. It's the same with being an influencer. I
Mm-hmm.
think you've got to look within yourself. What is it within me that I can share with
Mm-hmm.
others? Uh, so that's the way I look at it. Although you to get back to your question, yes, some people today are now thinking in terms of
Mm-hmm.
I want to be an influencer.
Right.
Again, is being an influencer career? Well, for the top people, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people have day jobs
Mm-hmm.
and they do the influencing
Mm-hmm.
as a part-time thing.
Right. Yeah. Or it
Um,
might be part of their day job, but
or it might be
it's,
part of
yeah.
their day job,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So as an expert in an industry or something, or a company, being an influencer could be part of their
Mm-hmm.
job, their day
Right.
job, right? So I would look at it as being something that you're tacking on to what you're already
Mm-hmm.
doing. Well, and
Right.
that's probably the more holistic way to look
Mm-hmm.
at it, more organic way. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to grow a little bit. Don't worry about fast growth. You know, it's one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Gary Vaynerchuk says,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just be putting things out there. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with your content a little bit. Don't be afraid to experiment. Some people are going to say, I don't like that. And other people are going to say, oh, that's great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so now you got to figure out what
Yeah.
direction you want to
Mm-hmm.
go in with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But Vaynerchuk said something really, you know, a recent video I watched. He said, people noticed when I went from 500,000 followers on Facebook to 700,000. And it happened in a very
Mm-hmm.
short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was commenting on that.
Mm-hmm.
He says, it's interesting because nobody's talking about what it took for me to
Yeah. How
get
do you
to
get there? Mm-hmm.
500,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that's what I normally talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's going out there. It's putting out some
Mm-hmm.
content, documenting your process. What are you thinking about? What are you struggling with?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about those things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people want to hear about because that's human. That's
Right.
relatable,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just the victories.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about some of your setbacks
Mm-hmm.
too.
Right.
What did you try that flopped? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what did, you know, and why?
Mm-hmm.
Give some people some,
Mm-hmm.
it flopped, I think, because of this, that, and the
Mm-hmm.
other thing. You're helping people right
Mm-hmm.
there. So just think about it as incremental, day to
Mm-hmm.
day, you know, just keep showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the consistency. No
Right.
course is going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to handle that for you. You've got to do
Mm-hmm.
that yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know, and another thing, you know, I always ask my guests for you know, things to make sure that we cover along those lines. You said, you know, we can't be wishy-washy. You know, it can't be, oh, I'm going to do here. Oh, no, here. Oh, no, here. Take that stand. Now, you might change, you know, it's, you know, things change. People change. You know, we might have been computers. Computers is a great example. You might have always been a PC person and now you're a Mac person.
Right.
You know, I think people change, but it's not, ooh, I'm going to be a PC person this hour and a Mac person this hour and, you know, and all this, you know, but it's about picking and sticking with it and not, you know, not going wherever the spirit moves.
Exactly. So take a stand.
Mm-hmm.
So put a stake in the ground. Say to yourself, I'm going to talk about, you know, this because
Mm-hmm.
I believe in this and I just believe in that and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do. Now that doesn't mean you have to be abrasive.
Right.
You could be very congenial
Mm-hmm.
doing that. But like you said, if you're a Mac person,
Mm-hmm.
be a Mac person.
Right.
If you're a PC person,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid of being a PC
Mm-hmm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of criticizing Mac occasionally. Don't be even afraid of criticizing PC
Right.
platform, right?
Well, and it's back to that authentic. You know, nothing is perfect. So if you're not criticizing it, then it seems weird.
True. Then you're just perceived as being a shill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't want that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants that. So be very mindful of that, careful of that.
Mm-hmm.
Stay true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't deviate from it, because
Mm-hmm.
that's going back to your why.
Right.
Why did you do this to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's tricky in this day and age because of social media. You can get caught. You can, say you're the person, you mentioned before, that the HP person. He's always
Right.
talking about HP products. And, somewhere along the line, somebody with their phone sees him using a Dell laptop and films it and puts it out there. Or, maybe he says, hey, I bought a new laptop today on social media and it's a Dell.
Yeah.
The whole social media world has such an influence on influencers, and I think that's, it's hard because we have to watch our personal brand all the time, especially if we're putting ourselves out there as an influencer.
Yeah, great point. Think of it as your personal brand. What do you
Mm-hmm.
stand for?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to putting a stake in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to being consistent, and it goes back to your why.
Right.
So think about, right now, if you make a mistake, just admit it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, say, look, if you're an HP person and you ended up buying a Dell for this latest laptop, well, why don't you sit there and have a conversation with
Right.
everybody about why you did?
Right.
What
Mm-hmm.
made you choose the
Mm-hmm.
Dell? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it had some features on it that were just going to be
Right.
more beneficial for you
And you're
this time
telling the
around.
HP people, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah. You guys,
Mm-hmm.
I love your brand, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe you fell down on
Mm-hmm.
this or something,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically, whatever it is. But yeah, true. Just be true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
admit your mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and document what you're doing and your thinking, so it
Right.
doesn't show up as a surprise to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you got to pivot and shift,
Mm-hmm.
say, you know what, the strategy I was trying,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't working. And it
Right.
wasn't working because of this, that, and the other
Mm-hmm.
thing. So what I'm doing is I'm going in
Mm-hmm.
this direction
Mm-hmm.
now.
Right.
Right?
And again, that makes it authentic. That makes it believable. If I'm looking at somebody and I go, oh, wow, oh my gosh, he's human. Okay.
Right. And again, that gets back to being authentic and genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the attractiveness,
Mm-hmm.
whether we realize it or not.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, that's what we want. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm talking to somebody that really believes what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
What they're recommending is something that they really use,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not just a paid shill,
Right.
saying something nice about a product
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's transparent, and it's not, it's not genuine. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no meat to that. There's no
Mm-hmm.
substance there. There's no emotional emotion backing it up,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm looking for emotion backing it up. I'm looking for, this was a good product. This is why
Mm-hmm.
I use it. Yeah, it fell down on a couple of things here, but man, if you're looking to use it for
Mm-hmm.
this, I recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would expect to see the influencer using it,
Mm-hmm.
right, and talking about it further in other
Right.
videos or podcasts
Mm-hmm.
or blog posts or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And back to things like the mommy bloggers, or, my big thing is, about 3 every afternoon, I'm thinking, what am I going to have for dinner? And I go to, I Google, chicken, pork,
Right.
whatever. And of course, what comes up are blogs. There are the sites that have the recipes, but so when I'm looking through these, it's not just that they say, here is our recipe for chicken cutlets. It's, I couldn't figure out what to cook. I had this and this and this, and my kids had this, and my husband had that. Now, part of that, I'm kind of going, I just want the recipe,
Yeah.
but I'm still skimming through it. And, and I recognize that there are some people who are going to read every single word of that because they probably follow that person. So
Right.
they know that, she has 2 cats and 3 dogs and 4 kids, and, and they want to hear a little bit more about them. And the chicken cutlets is just kind of part of the story. And so it's funny how people become influencers totally and completely on accident. This woman, or any of the examples like this, they just wanted to share their chicken cutlet recipe and what the heck was going on with their day. And it evolved,
Right.
20 people went, oh my gosh, you have to check this out. And then 50 people, and, and maybe 50 is all you need. I mean, that's the other thing. This is not a quantity quality thing. Depending on what you're talking about and what your subject matter is, millions of people might not need to be your followers.
True. It's not the size of the audience, it's the quality of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
the dedication of the
Mm-hmm.
audience. I mean, really, they keep coming back for more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentleman by the name of Kevin Kelly who wrote a blog post
Mm-hmm.
back around 2007 or
Mm-hmm.
so, or maybe it was 2006. And it was really, the title of it was like 1,000 True Fans.
Mm-hmm.
And his point is you really just need
Mm-hmm.
1,000 true fans,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make a business
Right.
out of being an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
And think of it that way. So you don't need 10 million. You don't need a million. I mean, and again, the media, the press love to talk about influencers
Mm-hmm.
with, millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of people and everything else. The problem with large followings is the larger the following number, statistically, the lower the engagement rate.
Right.
Because the followers start realizing that the influencer is less relatable because
And
they're never going to,
they'll never see their comment and all
right,
of
they'll
those
never
things.
see their comment. They're never going to respond to
Mhm.
what they say, or things like that. So a smaller following can actually be a lot more advantageous to you as an influencer. And that article by Kevin Kelly made that point. So imagine you had 5,000 followers.
Mhm.
1,000 of them are your real diehard
Right.
fans, right? Just one-fifth,
Mhm.
right? And you sold a course. And let's
Mhm.
say you sold it for $100,
Mhm.
and every one of those 1,000 people bought it. Well, okay, so now you made 100 grand
Mhm.
off of 1,000
Right.
people,
Yeah. Does it
right?
mean that the 4,000 that
Right.
didn't? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
maybe they didn't even buy it,
Mhm.
but they're still sort of hovering around.
Mhm.
Maybe a few of them do, but
Mhm.
think of it that way. So now
Mhm.
for a $100 product, you've made six
Mhm.
figures. So that's kind of his point. It's like you just need the diehard group is the
Mhm.
most important one.
Mhm.
Look to build that.
Right.
Look to build your real core audience and
Yeah, get those
interact with them.
raving fans.
Right. The raving fans. Right
Mhm.
now, you're not gonna. If you have 10 million followers, 10 million followers are not gonna be raving fans.
No.
It's going to be a much
Mhm.
smaller amount. But
Mhm.
that's fine. Cater to those people.
Mhm.
Give them what they want.
Right.
Right. And if you do that, you're setting yourself up for long-term
Mhm.
success.
Right. And there's one that I want to hit on this again, because to me this is probably one of the most important, and that's the consistency. If you're going to do this, if you're going to be the blogger, the Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is medium that you're going to use, it can't just be every once in a while.
Right.
It really, now I'm not saying every day. I mean, there was one of the big names in marketing who committed that he was going to do a blog post every single day. And that was great to start with. Well, then, he kind of petered out of ideas. And so it went from, and I subscribed, so I get his
Yeah.
email every day. And, and part of the problem was every day was too much. I mean, especially when he started kind of recycling the ideas.
Right.
And, but it went from several paragraphs to one paragraph to a sentence. And then he finally said, folks, this is not working.
Yeah.
I can send you something pithy every day, but you're not paying any attention. So I'm going to go back to every 2 weeks or monthly,
Yeah.
whatever. But, then he kept that schedule. And every 2 weeks we went, we're waiting for something from him today,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that consistency. And I'll be honest, I struggle with that. In doing something and doing it on that regular basis, that's hard. I mean, because life gets in the way.
Well, you brought up a great point there. So it's the consistency, but think about it.
Mm-hmm.
In how do you want to be consistent?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ann Handley, the author I told you about,
Mm-hmm.
the expert on writing,
Mm-hmm.
she puts out her newsletter every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll send out a post to you every 2 weeks. But you know what? It does a couple of things. One, every post is really good.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Number one. Number two, I get it. And I know that I've got 2 weeks to digest it. I've
Mm-hmm.
got 2 weeks to go in there and really read it.
Right.
I'm not pressured to like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
3 days from now, she's
Mm-hmm.
writing another one.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read
I
the
have to
last one
absorb
fully.
this so I can absorb
Now I got to
that.
absorb this one. So then you just stop reading them all
Right.
together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a way to think about how you would like your audience to
Mm-hmm.
absorb your content. So maybe you blog every week. Maybe you blog every 2 weeks, whatever it is, figure out a schedule,
Mm-hmm.
stick to it. If you're giving value, real good value to the
Mm-hmm.
people, yeah, I don't think it matters so much from that standpoint, whether it's once a week or
Mm-hmm.
every day or every
Right.
2 weeks. You're giving something to
Mm-hmm.
them that they want,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, for instance, I sign up for Simon Sinek's email newsletter, and
Mm-hmm.
all he sends you every day is like one sentence or
Mm-hmm.
one or two sentences.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
It's just a thought
Mm-hmm.
once, every day,
Mm-hmm.
a motivational thought.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And it makes you think, and then you go on with your day.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I can read that
Mm-hmm.
like that. I can
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, that's really cool.
Right.
Maybe I could work
Mm-hmm.
on that today. So it doesn't have to be a 1,000-word
Mm-hmm.
blog post.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it can, you can combine it. So maybe you've said, okay, I'm going to do a blog post every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but I'm going to post on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever,
Yes.
every day. It's just going to be, much shorter, much
Different.
quicker. Yeah. Maybe it's just that I'm sharing somebody else's content. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things about influencers that I think some people get caught up in is it doesn't have to be just all my own stuff. I mean, I can be sharing something from somebody else and put my spin on it, so that way I'm kind of getting my little thoughts in there. But, then I'm not having to write something every day. I'm just, here's this great content and I wanted to share it with you.
Exactly. I mean, you could, there's plenty to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You read a good article, and why did you think it was insightful?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that,
Right.
right? Reference it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great. I do that all the time. I share content all the time on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Articles I find is
Mm-hmm.
cool or interesting or insightful that people might want to read.
Mm-hmm.
I actually read the article
Mm-hmm.
first,
Oh
make
yes.
sure that it's
Never just share.
right. No,
Even
don't
if
just
you
share
love
it.
that author, no, read
Right,
the
right.
article.
No, always make sure that you do like the content,
Mm-hmm.
but then a little sentence saying, hey, this is a cool article.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it had like one thing I shared today was about the hotel industry working with influencers.
Mm-hmm.
So and they wrote a very insightful
Mm-hmm.
piece about how to do it
Mm-hmm.
from a hotel perspective.
Right.
So I thought, oh, that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something as a marketer,
Mm-hmm.
so I shared it with others.
Mm-hmm.
So that's true. You can
Right.
share content that
Mm-hmm.
others produce.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that can make you friends
Mm-hmm.
with
Oh
other
yeah. Yeah.
influencers.
Connecting with other influencers is really important.
Exactly. Networking. We
Mm-hmm.
do it in life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're networking life.
Right.
I mean, look, we want to have friends. You want
Mm-hmm.
to have, professional acquaintances. You want to have,
Mm-hmm.
so just look at it as doing
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right.
You'll make some online connections
Mm-hmm.
first, and then at some point you'll meet, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
face to face, and have a cup of coffee
Mm-hmm.
together, right? And
Right.
lunch
Right.
or something,
Or even just if we're Zooming.
or Zooming, right? If you're Zooming, I mean, think the
Mm-hmm.
tech today makes it
Mm-hmm.
so much easier to get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
look to reach out
Mm-hmm.
and share people's content
Mm-hmm.
and give them love, and you'll get love back.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it is okay to be sharing a bit of your personal. We've talked about the fact that you need to be authentic and you want people to connect with you. Well, even if you're a business, if what you're talking about is a business thing, it's okay to have a little personal stuff in there.
Hmm.
You don't want to go overboard, and certainly we don't want to have TMI. But it's okay. I went on vacation last week, and so my Facebook posts were talking about being on vacation, and people are asking about that. And it's perfectly fine to have that little bit of personal in there. And obviously it depends on what your subject is. You
Right.
might need more personal, you might need less personal, but it's okay to have that, because again, we want people to relate to us. And I'm going to relate to somebody if I know that they've also got dogs, that they also love coffee, all these various things.
Exactly. So sharing a little bit of your personal
Mm-hmm.
life is a way to relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important part. It can't just be about all of your professional stuff
Mm-hmm.
or
That's
whatever.
boring.
It's a little boring,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to see some personality in there, right? That's what makes the person sort of attractive to
Mm-hmm.
follow.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to know that they're not just talking about this thing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that service or that
Mm-hmm.
product or that category. Yeah, throw something like, today I had to go pick up the dog from the vet, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm running a little late today. Whatever. I mean, throw a little personal
Right. Mm-hmm.
items in there, and let people know that you
Mm-hmm.
have a regular daily life too.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah. And it does come back to personal, authentic. We want people to relate to us, and
Yes,
and we want to help them. That was
exactly.
ultimately what it was we want to be giving them and sharing information that we think can help them. And you'll know if it's working. Now you might
Right.
have the 5 million followers, but if 50 of them say, "Oh my gosh, this really helped," that was what you were aiming for.
Exactly. Look at those people,
Hmm.
look for those kinds of
Hmm.
comments, and they'll help sustain you too.
Right.
They'll help you
Hmm.
keep enthusiastic.
Hmm.
Because now you're starting to build your already. If you get one or two of those people,
Hmm.
that's the kind of person right there that is going to be your
Hmm.
raving fan.
Right.
So just look to add a little bit
Hmm.
to that every day. It's
Hmm.
not a race.
Hmm.
It's a journey,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
It's the
influencing
tortoise. It's not the
it,
hare.
exactly.
Hmm.
Remember, the hare fell asleep,
Hmm.
right? And the tortoise ends up winning,
Yeah. Just plugging
right?
barely along. Yeah.
Right.
And
Just
and of
take it one
course we
step at a
want
time.
stuff right away. And I think
Yeah.
that's the tricky thing is, and folks, it could take years. I mean, I don't, hopefully it doesn't, but depending on what you're doing and the level that you're doing it at, all those various things, I mean, it can take a long time to build that base, to really have that influence.
Well, give yourself some milestones to work
Hmm.
with. So you might say, if I'm starting out now from scratch, all right, in 3 months, if I'm consistent and I'm doing this every day,
Hmm.
if I've got a blog, I'd like to get the traffic, maybe it's 20
Hmm.
people a day looking at my blog,
Hmm.
right? Or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Uh, Make sure your expectations are, realistic.
Right.
They're not
Hmm.
out of, I want to
Hmm.
be Gary Vaynerchuk in 3 months. It's not going to happen,
No.
right? It's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
So, have realistic goals,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, goals you can actually
Hmm.
hit, you
Hmm.
know, that you're going to get there. And sometimes you're going to exceed them,
Hmm.
and sometimes you might fall a little short, but
Hmm.
maybe every 3 months, take a
Right.
look and say, hey, how am I doing here?
Hmm.
You know, was I
Hmm.
consistently showing up all this time?
Hmm.
How many people are following me
Hmm.
now as opposed to when they were then?
Hmm.
All right, maybe I need to adjust a few things, right? And go from there.
Hmm.
And then always be learning along the way,
Hmm.
not just from the audience that you're building, but from other people, other
Hmm.
influencers who've already done it.
Right.
Learn from them
Hmm.
because many of them share
Hmm.
how they got how they got to be
Right.
where they are.
Hmm.
And if you will learn some shortcuts,
Hmm.
you will, and you'll learn, hey, this tactic doesn't work
Hmm.
anymore because the
Hmm.
algorithm on the Instagram
Hmm.
platform
Right.
doesn't like it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're doing this now. Oh, okay, great. So
Hmm.
then try doing more
Hmm.
of that. Model yourself on someone else who's already successful.
Hmm.
You
Right.
don't we don't model ourselves on people who are unsuccessful, right? In life.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're a business person, you don't sit there and say, well, boy, that person is nice and unsuccessful. I'm going to
Yeah.
model
They went
myself.
bankrupt. Let's do
They
what
went
they
bankrupt.
did.
Let's do what they did. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to say, how did Rockefeller build his
Hmm.
fortune, or whoever
Right.
you choose?
Or they went bankrupt. Let's not do.
Right,
But
right.
yeah. Hmm.
So how did this person do it?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I'm going to model myself on how they did it,
Hmm.
and use somebody as a guide. I
Hmm.
mean, I think they'd probably be flattered that you were doing that.
Hmm. Right.
You know,
Well,
so
that's a great segue to end the program. Oh my gosh, I hate that we have to end. But you are someone who has been successful at not only being an influencer yourself, you're an influencer. Um, but as we've talked about with our other program, you've worked with companies to help them get influencers.
yes,
And so how do people find you and connect with you online?
you can find me on my website, which is theinfluencemarketer.com.
Hmm.
On LinkedIn, which is T Augenthaler, T for Tom,
Hmm.
Augenthaler. You'll find my profile there.
Hmm.
I'm on Twitter, same thing, T Augenthaler there. And then I'm on Instagram too. And I'm known as the Influence Marketer on Instagram. So it's pretty simple.
You need to talk about your branding. There's not consistency there, Tom. There's not consistency. And actually, it's funny. That's where it does get weird. Are you your company? Are you you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But that's
I know.
subject for another day,
That's a
another
different topic.
program. So I strongly encourage people to connect with you, to follow you, because this is something that every business can and should be at least considering, if not doing, and, having people that are, your staff, your employees, yourself, an influencer. Maybe it's just for 20 people, maybe it's for 2 million, but it is something that you really need to be thinking about. So please connect with Tom and follow him online.
Thank you, Deb. I appreciate it. Yep.
Well, we have been having a great time. I can't wait. We will do this again, obviously. And so until next time, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a wonderful time talking with Tom Augenthaler. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us next time for more real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
You've been listening to C-Suite Radio. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.